What's going on, everyone? I'm doing something a little different today because I kind of made a promise to someone that I'd do this, and I haven't really made good on it. And if you know anything about me, you know that I'm not someone that doesn't fulfill on a promise. When I give someone my word, I stick to it. So for today, I'm doing an anime tier list because I'm a pretty big fan of anime, and someone asked me what my favorite anime is, and I kind of gave them a big jumbled answer because I don't really have one solid favorite anime. But for the sake of actually properly answering that question and going into detail for anyone else that's wondering about it, as well as making a video I can hopefully get a whole fuck ton of views on, I comprised my own anime tier list with honorable mentions. I even got a script, taking this one seriously. So, beginning with my honorable mentions, because, let's just face it, I'm going to give those off to you right away. Attack on Titan is an honorable mention because, honestly, it is a really good show. It's well made, and the production's very done, it's very overdone. But it's basically the Game of Thrones of anime. And what I mean by that is, they'll introduce you to a character, ham him up for 30, 40 minutes, and then they'll just immediately kill him off. It's like, yo, what the fuck? And they do a lot of it for shock value, and a lot of it's not really good writing when you're doing that type of thing just for pure shock value. But moving on, we will also give Fate series an honorable mention because Fate Zero is actually a really good anime. But just Fate Zero. All the other Fate stuff is kind of just nonsense that's riding the coattails of Fate Zero, in my opinion. My next honorable mentions are the big three, and if you don't know what the big three are, it is Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach. When I tell people that they should watch older anime, and they're like, oh, do you mean Naruto? Do you mean One Piece? Hell no, those shows fucking suck. And the reason they suck is they are just way too big for the story they tell. One Piece is the perfect example for the sake of, it's 900 fucking episodes. And there's no rewatch value. I tried to rewatch One Piece. If you've passed the Grand Line part of the story, you can't go back. You can't rewatch the show. It's over for you. You have to just sit down and keep watching. I made it to Thriller Bark, didn't continue, and people are like, oh, well, why don't you just start rewatching a Thriller Bark? I'm like, you know why? Because there's no rewatch value. But a show that probably does have rewatch value is Sailor Moon. The only reason it's an honorable mention and not on the list is because I just never watched it. And a little piece of me doesn't really want to watch it. I'd rather rewatch some of the anime that are on the list because that's why they're on the list. But an anime I did watch is Evangelion. Neon Genesis Evangelion is an incredibly good show. Up until you watch, the final movie of it. Where it's, the very ending of it ruined the whole fucking thing for me. And I'll talk more about Evangelion later. But it's just a really just god-awful ending, like the one movie. People tell me, no, it keeps going. I don't want to see it. Demon Slayer is not going to be on the list. It's an honorable mention. And I know some people are thinking of clicking off. Don't do it yet. I will talk more about Demon Slayer later on. But in my personal opinion, I think that it's just a little overhyped for the sake of, the first season and the second season are super good. If it just kept that energy the entire time, it'd be on the list. It would replace one of the other ones I'm going to talk about. But seeing the show just progressively go downhill the way, in my opinion, it has, I'm just not interested in seeing it go downhill anymore. the thing I really don't like about Demon Slayer is they'll have you fighting a bad guy who's just mercilessly fucking killing people, and you're right at the end of it, in the last millisecond before he gets his head cut off, you're supposed to feel bad for this guy, and they'll give you his whole backstory and everything, and it's like, why are you trying to make me feel bad for this guy right as he's about to, like, bite the dust? Like, in other shows I'm going to talk about, and in another popular show that's an honorable mention for me, Goblin Slayer, when they portray a bad guy, they make you hate the fucking bad guy. And Demon Slayer does a terrible job of making you dislike the bad guy, even with Muzan. Like, there's a little piece of you that even likes that guy, he's so charismatic. But, yeah, another more popular anime that's not going to hit the list is Inuyasha, as well as Full Metal Alchemist. Those are honorable mentions. They could just as easily be number 11. But I'm trying to do, like, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to put a lot of animes together and compare them. But they would take a spot for the number 11 tied list. Pokemon. I'm going to talk more about Pokemon as I get into the list, because Pokemon does appear on my top 10 list, but not in the way you'd think. The original Pokemon, it's just so far off of what the actual games are that it's just really takes you out of it. Like, seeing the character of Ash not really mature as the audience matures, it really, like, doesn't enthuse me. And it enthuses a lot of people, but it doesn't really tickle that childish nostalgia that I have anymore. It doesn't do a good job of grabbing me. But my last of the honorable mentions is Hajime no Ippo. If you've never heard of this show, it's actually a really good boxing anime. I'm going to talk more about other fighting anime in the list. And the thing that's wrong with Ippo, even though it's a really good show and it does a really good job of portraying real life issues with boxing and a lot of the training and whatnot, is that he never loses. Like, I'm into fighting, and, like, sometimes when I'm sparring people or, like, when I'm training, I get my fucking ass kicked. It's just the way it is. Like, it's an incredibly unrealistic depiction of a boxer when they never, ever, ever lose. And, like, I don't really see him struggle the same way we see, like, side characters in that show struggle. So that's why Ippo, I really like the show, but it's not going to make the list. Now, moving on to number 10, let's talk about Pokemon, is Pokemon Origins and Yu-Gi-Oh! They're kind of up there on my number 10 spot. I'm going to put a lot of things together, I'm cheating. But what Pokemon Origins is, while I was saying the original Pokemon show was not faithful to the games, or, like, it didn't really age with the audience. Oh man, this is really distracting. I got, like, this third eye of Buddha going on. Something hit me in the face at work, but forgive me. As I move forward, try not to think about it. But the Origins Pokemon anime was really faithful to the end. And it wasn't a very long one, but it was a really good one. There was a lot of hype behind it. And unlike with the recent Devil May Cry anime, the hype was real. Like, it cashed in really well. The final episode with Mewtwo, we've all experienced that. And the way it actually captured the real feeling of it, you gotta appreciate it. But I'm gonna put Yu-Gi-Oh! Just a little bit better than Pokemon for the sake of what the story content of the show actually is. Like, it handles a lot more mature details, and it portrays a lot of things in a way that no matter what age you are, you're kind of intrigued by the show and where it's gonna go. It's got a lot of rewatch value for the sake of, like, sometimes you're wondering why a dude didn't do a certain thing, and then you rewatch and it's like, okay, yeah, now it kind of makes more sense. Watching certain characters come up, a lot of the inspirational things, a lot of the themes about friendship and overcoming. Yugi is sort of like Ippo in the sense of like he hardly ever loses, but he does lose. And that's kind of like the show does a really good job of selling the card game. Unlike Pokemon, that kind of rides the game itself. The game came out before the show. A lot of people are already into the game and they're watching the show. Yu-Gi-Oh! Did the opposite, where the show and the manga sold the game. And when you're playing the game in real life, you have a lot of those anime feelings. And they're captured really well in the anime, where it's like, you gotta draw that one next card to win. It's gotta be the right card. And that does happen in real life. And it's a really unique experience that I think only can be portrayed with this media. It's got a really magical sort of essence about it. That's enough about me talking about my favorite card game. Samurai X / Rouruni Kenshin, as well as Trigun, are going to be up there for spot number 9. Why I'm lumping them together is because they're both very similar shows, for the sake of they both follow a main character in an incredibly violent world that refuses to kill people. This is powerful because over the course of their entire shows, they have this ironclad conviction that they stick to. And to me, that's magical. Like, you can't really find that in a lot of main characters. Like, there's always that point where the devil comes to the crossroads and you're tempted. These characters are always faced with temptation to break their, like, honor codes, and they always rise above that temptation. In Samurai X, it's about this dude, Kenshin Himura, who is a former absolute prolific murderer, like a real #1 samurai, real #1 badass of Japan. But after all of his senseless murdering and whatnot, violence, he's like, you know what? This is wrong. Like, I gotta stop doing this. I'm, like, only perpetuating a state of violence. And that sort of theme, if you've ever watched Afro Samurai, is also covered, where it's like, violence only begets violence. And he has vowed to end the violence. And over the course of the show, there's a lot of times where people push him to do it, and he just refuses. But Trigun is the same but opposite. It is a Western show about gunslingers, and the main character, Vash the Stampede, has the world's largest bounty on his head. But he's never killed a single person. He doesn't believe in killing people. And the bounty hunters that chase this guy down are very prolific murderers. And they're chasing this guy down. And there's a lot of scenes where you see Vash really pushed to kill these guys. Like in one of them, this dude kills a whole town of people while he's chasing Vash down. And he's just looking at him at the very end of the fight. And he's like, you killed all the people. And that's all that Vash says for like a good minute or two. It's just gets you. And there's another one where he's fighting a samurai, and he's got this massive fucking arm gun that just like mutates with him because he's a plant, I guess. Spoiler alert. And this samurai's looking at him like, what the fuck? What is that? What the hell are you? And Vash is just as confused. Like, I don't know, man. Run away. Like, get the hell out of here. I don't want to hurt you. And, like, the innocence of these characters in these shows can never be undersold. Just like the innocence of characters in shows like Chainsaw Man and Jujutsu Kaisen in number 8. Chainsaw Man and JJK, as well as Demon Slayer, are in the top 3 of the modern anime, if you ask me. The only reason Demon Slayer I'm not talking about right now is because the first season, as I mentioned, is goated. It's a fantastic show. But just like I said with Fate, one season can't carry a whole show. And when we get into the entertainment district in the Swordsmith Village, especially entertainment district, if you rewatch that with an adult mind, Tengen's pimping out children. Like, that's some pretty greasy shit. And these are characters we're supposed to really idolize. And they're doing some things that in the real world are very diabolical. So, with that, I can't really put Demon Slayer on my list of shows as top 10, even though it is a really good show. But with Chainsaw Man, what we have is a character that has had nothing. Denji is very relatable to me for the sake of I too have thought about selling parts of myself for cold bologna. And when you're in a position of just full-on sacrifice and full-on commitment to a goal, and then things start going well for you, it's just really fun to see. The fact that he appreciates all of the little things in life as he starts getting them, and he stays focused on Makima. Like, there's the scene where he's in bed with the one chick after the bar. She's trying to bang him, and he's like, you know what, this isn't right. Pulls the Austin Powers, and it's like, you know what? Denji's a real man. And just like in JJK, where we see, I can't remember his name. We're getting to that part of the show. He's got this promise he makes to his grandpa at the very start of the show to just be a true man to himself. Or whatever it is. He's got this promise he makes to his grandpa. And from the very first episode, just like with that Naruto Jiraiya sort of vibe, you really feel it in your heart. And then seeing later on when he eats Sukuna's fingers and he's just got to accept the fate he's had, there's an element of just honor that comes with accepting a really bad run of fate with your head held high the same way he does. Okay, what's next? Number 7. I'm putting JoJos and Baki together. Why would I put these two shows lumped together? Because they contain the most ridiculous nonsense facts that you've ever heard. And you know what's the most fucked up about it? Is if you fact check this shit, almost all of it's right. And it's insane how they implement this shit into shows. But there's a little bit more than that that's a really similar between these two guys. And it's that the season 3 character with Jotaro in JoJo's, the third JoJo, has a really similar dynamic as Baki has from like the 90s anime all the way to the finish. And that these are both really extreme, damaged mama's boys. You don't really get that same sense off of Jotaro as you do off of Baki. But they both are on this journey and on this path for the sake of their moms. And it's just like really pure for the sake of really simple motivation. Like, my mom's sick, I gotta do it. That's JoJo. Baki's a little bit different though, for the sense of like, Baki has the most anime famous dad, being Yujiro Hanma. This motherfucker's ridiculous. Like, a lot of people call him the worst anime dad out there. And to me, it's like, hey, at least he'll have imaginary tea with his son. Fuck. He's like throwing him through windows. At least he comes back around. That's Yujiro. But like, damn, both of these shows are really good for portraying the evolution of characters. With JoJo, it's how every season has something a little bit different for everyone. I like the first 2 seasons the most, before it starts talking about stands, when it's just about like fighting vampires and the stone masks and shit. pretty into that. But with Baki, it kind of tells the whole evolving story of this guy's life. Like how he starts as a young man and just has to mature and take the hits that life throws at everyone while he's pushing himself towards this final goal of being stronger than his dad. So there's something pretty pure about that I really like. Berserk and Devilman, taking number 6. Berserk has the #1 manga out there. Like, I think it's the best manga ever written. But the anime game needs to step it up. Like, the 2016 was trash fire. The 90s one, though, was so good that it has just this continuous inspiration and kind of it memes itself into more media. Like in Dark Souls, there's a big, long-running gag of having Guts' greatsword, even into Elden Ring. So when you make that big of a movement into media, just throughout other media, it just speaks to how big of an impact that the 90s show had on people. And I want to watch the 90s show with all my friends and like with someone special to me and all that. But I don't want to watch that last episode with someone because like I've watched that show like 5 times and every time I see that episode it just like gets me. I will literally write the script for the live action Berserk movie because I see it having the same level of success as like Lord of the Rings. Because the anime game just hasn't been doing it. You get the same Golden Age arc like 4 or 5 times. We got to move past that, and in a good way that's not pots and pans clanking together like in 2016. Devilman, however, is a really good example of how Netflix can actually do something well. Because that Devilman anime, it just gets you. And it's dark, it's adult. You gotta watch it like as like 18 plus, I'm gonna say. Because it handles a lot of mature themes. Like, these are both really guttural, grotesque animes to a point. But unlike a lot of shows that include violence, these shows don't have pointless violence. Like, and in the final scene of Devilman, where everything's kind of like coming together, and you just see the big ending with Ryu and everything, it's just really poetic. So I would encourage anyone that's like an actual grown adult to watch these shows, Berserk and Devilman, especially if you haven't. But speaking of the big influence Berserk's had, Dragon Ball has had just as big of an influence. And I'm going to put that at number 5. Why do I talk so much crap about the big 3, but Dragon Ball is like my number 5 anime? Because Dragon Ball to me isn't just Dragon Ball Super or Dragon Ball Z. It's Dragon Ball back when Goku was a kid, and watching him grow up and become a man and a father and a grandfather. Like, it's the entire story of Goku that is actually well written and portrayed well by Akira. And goddamn, like, there's a reason it's so popular. Obviously, I don't need to talk too much about Dragon Ball. My number 4 is Death Note. I'm obviously going to put Death Note ahead of Dragon Ball because, like, goddamn, is Death Note written well. There's also a reason I put Death Note at number 4 is because in Japan, the, like, numeral for 4 also means death. So I just thought it'd be kind of funny. But Death Note, goddamn, that show is, like, it keeps you on the edge of your seat in a way that, like, most of these other shows have a tough time doing. And when you see, I'm going to spoil half of it, when you see L die and he don't win, it's kind of like, whoa, man, what the fuck? Light, you were playing so loose, man. So, like, the first half of the show is a super dramatic irony. Like, we as the audience know what's going on, but the characters don't know what's going on. And it's like the perfect example of dramatic irony in an anime. But in the second half of the show, they kind of flip the script where it's like, yeah, we as the audience are informed of a lot of this information, but we're informed of it like as it's happening, and a lot of things are becoming more random, and it's harder to predict. So it goes from being the super dramatic, ironic, investigative thing to being a more true investigative anime, like another one I'm going to talk about. And I think it's done pretty well, except for the fact that I wanted to see a little bit more screen time from Mello, like the chocolate guy in season 2. I thought he was a lot more interesting than Nier was, and he didn't really get a proper flush out in the show. Felt kind of rushed near the end of season 2, I ain't gonna lie. But 2 shows that were not rushed, they were both written by the same guy, so I'm putting them together. Number 3 is Hunter x Hunter and Yu Yu Hakusho. I loved Yu Yu Hakusho when I was in high school, and I'm rewatching it right now. That show is mint. Everything about it is mint. The way you see Yusuke kind of just evolve as a character, and everything kind of just fall into place. It keeps you involved. Like, there isn't anything that ever seems like a big ass pull or anything. And it's also got a really famous ending. But to me, the thing that makes the ending a lot better than the one in Evangelion, and I'm gonna spoil it, is that Yusuke loses the big fight, but he fucks up his opponent enough that in the next round of the tournament he loses. And it's just like this one dude that just no one would have expected won the big fucking tournament. And he's like, okay, so yeah, we're just going to leave people alone for the next 3 years until the next tournament. And when you see Yusuke wake up in the hospital and learn this, it's just like, what the fuck? We're just as confused as he is. And it's a really good situation of putting us in the boots of the character. But also, as I rewatch the show, I see that a lot of things were written in intentionally from the start. Like, nothing is an ass pull in that show. There's no MacGuffins, there's no, oh, all of a sudden this came out. Like, there's kind of a purpose for everything. And the fact that the same dude wrote Hunter x Hunter, I wasn't really ever too interested in that show until so many people recommended it to me, and I fucking love Hunter x Hunter now. The entire premise of Hunter x Hunter is this kid Gon is looking for his dad, who is a hunter of rare items, which is why the show is called Hunter x Hunter. Gon is hunting his dad, who is a hunter. And there's a scene in it that solidifies his dad, Gene Freaks, as the biggest anime piece of shit. And it's a scene where Gon and his friend Killua are listening to a tape recorder of his dad, and he's like, hey, Gon, sure you really want to see me? Well, I don't want to see you. And every time you try, I'm going to keep fucking off. And to me, that just solidifies this guy as the worst, because at least Yugioh kept tabs on Baki. Gon has this big fucking journey ahead of him, and it's really innocent and fun to see how his story progresses. I'm gonna go to Ghost in the Shell and Psychopass for my number 2 picks. These shows were really good at predicting the modern state of things in the world. Psychopass is pretty much 1984 as an anime. If you've never heard of or read that book, you should. At least Google it. Where the emotions of people are being policed by a central intelligence program that monitors everyone all the time. And a similar thing is starting to happen in China, which is pretty crazy how predictive this show was of the future. But a show that's even crazier and better for a longer time is Ghost in the Shell, which is crazy in the sense of, like, it deals a lot with what it means to be human and what the actual core values of keeping technological advances are. And it kind of goes into a lot of the same themes as the movie Armitage do, where it's like, what does it mean to be a woman in a world of, like, men? And it handles a lot of adult topics in a way that really are hard to address other than from directly the female's perspective. And for the sake of being able to actually portray a lot of these issues in a way that's as streamlined as it is, and not as, like, preachy or anything, it's just like, it's really good to follow. Like, these shows are awesome. Ghost in the Shell, you should check it out. There's a scene where we think the main character dies and her love interest is just fucking distraught. He just breaks down and crying. Just to see that it's like a fake, it's a ruse, like it didn't actually happen on some Mission Impossible shit. It's like it's a real twist ending. But I'm sure I've been watching for long enough. My, I guess, 2 number 1 spots are Cowboy Bebop and Fist of the North Star is the honorable mention that goes with that. Cowboy Bebop and Fist of the North Star, I guess, they're both written about characters that have troubled pasts that are trying to move forward. And everything around them just keeps bringing them back to the past. It's like The Crow in a fucking show. And for Fist of the North Star, the first half of the show is homie Kenshin. He's trying to save his girlfriend from his former best friend, who has turned into a psycho. And they both die. Like, Kenshin's buddy and the girl, they both die. She jumps off a cliff on some Romeo and Juliet shit, thinking that he had already passed away. So in the second season, we see Kenshin not do the thing that Romeo did in Romeo and Juliet and kill himself. And we see him try and pick up the pieces and reassemble his life and, like, meet a group of friends and fight for them and become a little bit more of a man. I still haven't finished that show because, just like I said with Yu Yu Hakusho and Evangelion, they had some questionable endings. And I don't want Fist of the North Star to end for me. I want that last episode just sitting there waiting for me. That's how good I think that show is. But Cowboy Bebop is better. The way that show is drawn, the themes it covers, how every episode is just lightning in a bottle to a degree. It's just such an amazing show that if you haven't seen Cowboy Bebop, why are you still watching? Go watch Cowboy Bebop. As a matter of fact, I've been talking too long. Go enjoy your day.